It's late at night, you're driving alone, and you see flashing lights behind you. You've heard those tragic stories about criminals impersonating police officers, so what do you do? Inside Edition has been investigating the problem, and what our Matt Mahar has learned is scary.
I knew something was wrong right away.
Wendy Cohen will never forget the night 2 years ago when her daughter, Lacey, a beautiful college sophomore studying to become a teacher, didn't come home.
I called her cell phone over and over and over again, and when I knew her cell phone wasn't on, I knew something was wrong.
While driving home from a friend's house late at night in Fort Collins, Colorado, police say Lacey saw flashing lights behind her.
She just did what any good kid would do. If they saw police lights, she just would pull over.
But it wasn't a police officer. It was this man, Jason Clausen, a police impersonator who abducted, sexually assaulted, and killed Lacey.
How close was she to being safe?
That's the hard part. She was 3 doors from her house.
Mark Neal, a detective with the Fort Collins Police Department, helped investigate the murder.
She honestly believed that there was a police officer behind her, and she needed to do what the police officer was instructing her to do.
Working on a tip, police brought in Clausen for questioning. In his car, they found a badge and flashing lights, but he denied he'd been posing as a cop.
But I just need you to be straight with me and tell me how many times you pull people over. Yeah, no. Never.
But Clausen didn't know that this woman had already picked him out of a lineup. Teresa Clancy says 2 weeks before Lacey was murdered, she too was pulled over by Clausen while driving home from work at 3 in the morning.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
But Clancy works as a police dispatcher, and she immediately became suspicious.
I was pretty sure he was an imposter. Something was definitely wrong.
Clancy says when she asked the so-called cop for some identification, he ran off. When the detective told Clausen about Teresa Clancy, he quickly asked for a lawyer.
I'd rather talk to my lawyer then about that.
2 months later, Clausen pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and is serving life in prison. This is not an isolated case. There are reports of people posing as cops and committing crimes from all across the country. You might be surprised to find out how easy it is to make yourself look like a cop. We had no problem buying a uniform, real badges, handcuffs, even a flashing light. All of these items with barely a question asked. We found dozens of websites and stores that sell police paraphernalia to the public, including police badges for most major cities. With a few clicks of the computer mouse and some phone calls, I was able to turn myself into an authentic-looking lieutenant with the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department.
That is the Metropolitan Police Department patch. That is the flag that goes on the sleeve.
Luke Cannon's been a cop for more than 30 years and is also the president of the Fraternal Order of Police in Washington, D.C.
This is an MPD uniform.
I'd have no problem pulling somebody over, getting out, and telling them to do something with this uniform.
If you walked up to somebody, they're going to look at you with this, and they're going to think you are a police officer.
We didn't stop there, though. Hi, can I take some look at some used police cars? We found you can even purchase used police cars, like these unmarked cars, often favored by police impersonators. So what do police say you should do if you're legitimately suspicious of someone who's pulling you over in an unmarked car? Detectives Mark Neal and Michelle Lashinsky from the Fort Collins Police Department demonstrated. First, if you're in a secluded area and feel uneasy, slow down, put on your emergency flashers, and use your hand to indicate that you intend to pull over in a well-lit area where there might be more people around. If you've been pulled over and feel uncomfortable, stay in the car, roll your window up most of the way, and ask the officer for identification.
Can I see your ID and a badge and maybe get a marked unit here?
Certainly.
A marked car should ease your concerns, but at any point, if you're still uncomfortable and have a cell phone, you can dial 911.
He's saying he's a detective?
She's not going to be rude, she's not going to be hostile, but she's also not going to be a victim.
Correct.
And she let you know that by asking you the right questions.
Exactly. She took the situation back into control, her control.
That's advice Wendy Cohen wishes her daughter had known about before she was pulled over by an imposter.
It's not something you ever want anyone else to go through. It's devastating.
After Lacey's murder, her mother pushed for tougher laws in Colorado. Under the new Lacey law, it is now a felony to impersonate a police officer in the state, and illegal use of police lights is a misdemeanor. Still to come, you've seen me washing dishes and collecting tolls. Now my search for the toughest job in America continues as I become a fruit picker under the California sun.
My shoulder is already starting to hurt.
Production assistance for Inside Edition provided by